We turned our furnace on for the first time this season, and it feels like a very sad milestone, like an official end to the summer. It's always a little bit sad for me when the furnace gets turned on, but I am so grateful to have a warm, cozy home. Gotta remind myself of the blessings. So I thought today we would cozy up together and sit down and have a little chat. Today's questions are a little bit all over the place. We've got topics such as motherhood and tantrums, homeschool and faith, and all kinds of things. So in no specific order, I'm just gonna dive right into it. Tips for going out in public alone with young children. This is something that really intimidated me when I first had kids, and I think it intimidated me more when I only had one child or two children versus now that I have four. I remember when my first child was a newborn and we would go to church and I would be terrified by the thought of, what if she cries? What am I gonna do if she needs to breastfeed in the middle of the church service? Like, I need to try and time her feeds out so that I don't have to nurse her during the church service so that she's as happy as can be, all this stuff. So I feel like a lot of going out in public with children really just comes with experience. The more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it, the more your children adapt to it and become familiar with it, and it becomes easier over time. There are some things that I have learned though that make the whole experience a lot easier, starting with rules and expectations. We have set up a number of rules that our kids know, and we make sure that we go over these rules every time we go out, and if we feel like it needs to be really reinforced, we'll discuss it every time we get out of the vehicle so that they know what is expected of them. It's also important for me to be aware of how they're doing and how they're feeling, because I know that as young children they can only handle so many errands or so many outings before they just need to be home and play and use up this energy that's building up in them. So I try to limit outings to 1 or 2 locations. Anything more than that, I feel like it starts to get really hard for them, which then gets really hard for me, and everyone starts to get angry and upset and overstimulated. By the time we get home, we are just exhausted. Are you open to having another child? Does your family feel complete? In a lot of ways, I would say our family does feel complete. I remember when our 4th child was born, it felt so natural. With our other children after they were born, it was almost a shock, like, whoa, we have 2 kids. Wow, we have 3 kids. I can't believe it. But when she was born, it didn't feel crazy. It didn't feel weird. She just felt like the perfect fit into our family, as if she had been there the entire time. I mean, now we have 2 boys and 2 girls. It really does feel complete in a lot of ways, but in some ways it also doesn't. I can't really answer this question because I just simply don't know. Do you ever get recognized in public, and does it feel weird when people come up to say hi? This does happen on occasion. I am a socially awkward person, so when people come up to me and tell me that they watch my videos, I really never know what to say. So if any one of you has ever seen me in public and spoken to me, I sincerely apologize. I'm not a very well-spoken person. For me, I feel like there's a little bit of a barrier because the people who watch my videos almost feel like they know me to a certain level, whereas people who come up to me, I've never seen in my life. So to me, you are a complete stranger, but to you, you kind of know who I am to a certain degree. I think that's where my hesitation comes from, is because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I am just an ordinary mother going about her ordinary life, doing ordinary things. So it always catches me off guard when someone comes up to me and recognizes me in that way. What are your favorite layering pieces for wearing dresses in winter? I don't do a lot of layering because I spend most of my time inside. Where we live, it gets really, really cold outside in winter, and so I'm really not outside much at all. The only time I'm outside is really if I am walking from my vehicle into a store or from my vehicle into a house. Like, I'm really not outside a lot. So for me, I keep layers quite light. I just love cardigans and sweaters. Thick woolly socks I love. Last year, I don't think I even wore a pair of woolly tights because I just wasn't outside for an extended period of time. But if you are outside in winter more, thick woolly tights is great. Even leggings, I always wear biker shorts underneath. underneath, regardless of the temperature outside. I also love wearing a slip skirt underneath. So I don't have like a bigger, woolier one. I just have a silky slip skirt that I bought from the thrift store, and I wear that underneath almost all of my dresses. It doesn't add much for warmth, but it is a little extra layer that adds a little something. If I need extra layers, I'll also wear boots and a really warm jacket and a scarf, and those things are usually enough to keep me really warm for what I need. How do you potty train a toddler for nighttime? I don't. I don't know if you actually can. Personally, I don't know of anyone who has been able to potty train at nighttime. It just kind of naturally happens eventually. For some kids, it happens really early. For some kids, it takes a much longer time. I've experienced both ends of that with my children. I mean, just rest assured it's gonna happen eventually. How do you get things done when your toddler is extra fussy? I get a lot less done when my toddler is extra fussy. I like to take that as a sign to slow down and to really focus on my family and let other things slide, because there are seasons when I am able to do more things within the home, within work, for family, friends, but there are seasons when I need to just slow down and focus more on my family. So when things do start to get a little bit more difficult, like when toddlers are fussy, I take that as a sign to slow down, put some of my tasks on the back burner and just focus on them. But when I do actually really need to get stuff done, it really depends on the toddler and what they like, what they don't like. Every one of my babies has been a little bit different and have preferred different things. Some of my toddlers have been content to kind of sit and watch me. Some want to be held, so in those cases a carrier is really nice. Or I'll just try and do the task one-handed to the best of my ability. I really try and utilize nap times to their fullest potential, because if I have my hands free and have the ability to get some things done, I want to get things done as best I can so that when my child is awake, I can be more present and with them. What is a common misconception about you and your family? I think because I share stuff online, a lot of people assume that we have absolutely no social life, because I don't share our social life. I don't share our friends. I don't share our family. I have in the past, and it hasn't been a great experience. And so it's something that I just try not to share at all. That is our personal life, our private life. We do have a social life. We do go see people. We have friends. We have family that we see all the time, but it's not something that I openly share. Mama of 4, I would love your thoughts on homeschooling 4 different ages and keeping calm. This is another one of those things that I feel like really just is learned with time and experience, because your children are so unique, and depending on their age gaps and their likes, their interests, their genders, it's gonna be a little bit different for everyone. I have found even as we go through different seasons, it looks different in each season. Right now we are in a season where I have to spend a little bit more time with the older 2 doing school. My mornings are mostly spent with the older 2 teaching them, while the younger 2, they've become little buddies and they're off playing almost all morning long, keeping themselves entertained. And it's been really, really cool because their relationship has really blossomed. It makes it easier on me because they're having fun together, they're keeping themselves entertained, so I have more ability to spend time with my older 2. Of course, my 3rd child is doing some school as well, and so usually when we're doing school like that, everyone is all together. I try to have activities for everyone, so everyone's doing something and busy, but I am not an activity mom. I am not someone who will have stuff set up for my kids to do at all times. I am huge on free play. Honestly, I feel like they have so much more fun when they just have the ability to play what they want to play. Sometimes I feel like having activities set up for them and creating entertainment for them almost hinders their creativity. And so I really like to keep it as open-ended as I can. I still do activities with them, we still do crafts, we still set up sensory play every once in a while, but I'm not someone who does that all the time. Our homeschool mornings are a lot of back and forth. I'll teach one child, I'll let them take a break while I teach the next child, then they'll take a break, then I'll teach the next child, then they'll take a break, and they'll come back to the first child, and we really just kind of rotate. That way each child gets a break in between, and the morning flows quite smoothly that way. How has your boundaries with documenting family life changed over the years? When I first started filming videos and sharing them on YouTube, I really didn't have any boundaries at all. And that's because I had a very little following. Honestly, I didn't even really think about it. I started sharing these videos even before we had children. I didn't really think about family boundaries at that time. And then as our family started to grow and my channel started to grow and the internet started changing, I remember just having this sudden realization of there needs to be some boundaries here because our family needs to have a certain level of privacy, especially for my children, especially as they're getting older. I need to create some sort of boundary, some sort of privacy, separation between work life and family life. It's been a slow progression over the years. I used to do vlogging every single week and it used to be quite personal, and it slowly became less personal until eventually I had to stop vlogging altogether, and that was one of the best decisions I made for my own sanity, but also for our family, for privacy. I'm so glad that I chose to do that. And then slowly it's just been more and more. I really want to shift the focus of my channel away from our personal family life and more into motherhood, homemaking, serving Jesus in an ordinary life. That's really what I want this channel to be. I still want there to be a little bit of a personal side to this channel so that it does feel like it's more of a connection, like mom to mom connection, rather than someone who's just completely unreachable. But I do also need to set up boundaries for my family's privacy. I need to set up boundaries so that I can separate work from home life and I can be a mom who's not constantly working. It's constantly changing, but more and more we are progressing towards not sharing our children and keeping it more focused on myself, on motherhood, on Jesus. What advice would you give to couples who disagree on the number of children they want? Just pray. Pray and pray and pray. That, I mean, what else can you do? You can't change your husband's heart. Your husband can't change your heart. Only God can do that. Just pray. Have honest conversations, be willing to listen. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Never underestimate the power of prayer. And who knows, maybe God will change your husband's heart, maybe God will change your heart. But I encourage you to be open to whatever the Lord has in store for you and for your family. I know you like to be positive, but what is the hardest part of being a mom for you? For me, it is the overstimulation. I have a hard time handling a lot of people speaking to me at one time, a lot of people making noise at one time. I don't function well in a crowd. When there's a lot of noise around me and a lot of people asking me for things, it starts to get really overwhelming really fast, and I have a really hard time staying calm in situations where I'm feeling very overstimulated. I have learned and am learning to prevent myself from getting overstimulated. There are solutions, there are things you can do to prevent yourself from reaching that breaking point. And so I'm learning those. I'm also praying over it. I mean, he has really worked in my heart, and I am able to handle the overstimulation so much better now than I could even a year ago. Keeping my eyes fixed on Jesus, praying over these areas of my life where I struggle, finding ways to prevent myself from reaching that point has really transformed motherhood and my view on motherhood. I used to feel like if I had an area where I was struggling, the only solution was to take a break, to send my kids away. And now that's not always a bad thing, but that's not going to solve the issue in my heart. I need to work on my heart and work on the problem itself instead of just shoving the problem away. Anyway, that is one area that I do struggle with as a mom. How do you keep your boys occupied? Struggling with my active 11-month-old. Honestly, my biggest piece of advice is to reserve a space in your home, if you are able, where your boys can safely wrestle and be wild. I've noticed within my boys, they have this crazy energy that just needs to get out somehow. They need to be reckless, they need to wrestle, they need to fight, and allowing them to do so safely is actually a really great thing. So we actually have a room downstairs that is our spare room, but it is what we call the wrestling room. It is primarily dedicated to wrestling, playing, fighting, dancing, being wild and crazy. It's a safe place for them to do so, and it gets used daily. Now, of course, for an 11-month-old, It's going to look a little bit different than with, my 4 and 6-year-old. But ultimately, boys, they often just have this energy that they need to use. Finding a way for them to use that energy in a safe way can be really effective. Toys worth getting for 2-year-olds, I'm so overwhelmed by the options out there. I mean, it really depends on your child and their interests. One of my kids really loves cars. Any sort of toy car that they can push around and play with, that is their favorite thing, and it has been for years. But especially since they were 2, that's pretty much all they played with. Then some of my children really enjoy like Duplo Lego. Magnetiles is a really big one. Magnetic blocks of any kind, building blocks, things that they can build that their little hands are able to easily handle and maneuver. All of my kids, but especially my girls, have really loved their play kitchen, especially around the age of 2, as well as dolls and strollers, that imaginative play. It really depends on your child and their interests, but those are some of the toys that we have found were very loved by our 2-year-olds. Also bigger toys like a ball pit or a pickler triangle, something that they can climb up and slide down. We love the nugget couch as well for all ages. And of course, books. Books for all ages. How has owning Max and Moose affected your workload? It has been somewhat of a challenge navigating this new business adventure because it is quite a bit different than the other businesses that we own. It needs to be approached in a different way. There's a lot more investment in something like a retail company versus a company that provides a service, or like what I do like as an influencer. There's a lot of things that we've had to learn, and we have found it difficult to set aside the time to invest into this company. I have been slacking in some areas of this business as Lepke's life, because I have been having to spend more time into Max and Moose. And so it's just been a really interesting balancing act of what am I capable of doing right now? What is more important right now? I don't have a lot of extra time to begin with, so it's just a matter of squeezing it in where I can. What scripture has sat with you forever? There's so many. One that I come back to time and time again as a busy mom, as a homemaker. Teach me to number my days so that I may gain a heart of wisdom. And I don't remember where this is from. It's from Psalm somewhere. Yep, Psalm 90 verse 12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Time is precious, and it's something you don't realize until you become a mother. I found that when I became a mother, my time became so much more valuable, and I realized how much time I had wasted in my earlier years of life. As a Christian, a mother, a wife, a business owner, my time is so important, and the way that I'm spending my time is so important. And so I want to be so careful about how I am spending my time, even my free time. What am I doing in my free time? Is it beneficial for my family? Is it drawing me closer to the Lord? Am I serving God in what I am spending my time doing? Am I serving my family in what I'm doing with my time? And I love that it says that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Using our time wisely, using our time for Jesus, for our family, for serving others is such a wise thing. And the more you do it, the more wisdom you gain. I say this verse probably every single day, seeking the Lord for wisdom on how to manage my time and to steward my days well. How do you stay disciplined to keep up with health, housework, homeschool prep? Because if I don't do it, I'm going to deeply regret it the next day. I have learned that making sure that these things are priority, making sure that these things happen on a regular basis, keeps the function of our home flowing smoothly. It also keeps me feeling at my best as well. That is the motivation behind it, is it keeps me feeling good, it keeps my family feeling good, it keeps things rolling and functioning, so it becomes a priority and something I can be very disciplined with. I am new to faith. Where do I begin? I got so many of these questions, and that makes me so happy and so excited. I really feel that there is a sense of revival right now in Christian faith, and it's amazing to see. I can feel it myself. There's a sense of excitement, wanting to share the gospel and to be bold and to grow in our faith. It just makes me so excited because that is what we're here for. That is what this life is all about. I have spent much of my life living as a lukewarm Christian. It wasn't until a number of years ago, not even that long ago, I really started to make my faith my own, to prioritize my faith and to seek God's will and to live my life for Jesus. And praise the Lord, my faith grows deeper and deeper every day. I have learned over the last number of years, there are a few things that are key for keeping that fire alive, and that is First of all, reading the Bible every single day. If you are someone like me and you need a plan, otherwise you can't stick to it, search for a plan. The Bible app has so many different plans. I'm currently reading through the Bible. I'm doing a 260-day reading plan that goes through the Bible in chronological order. And I'm really excited to go through this because the Bible isn't written in chronological order. So I'm excited to see how it's laid out and to follow along the story of the Bible in that chronological order instead of just reading through from Genesis all the way to Revelation. I love having plans that have you flip-flopping back and forth between different books, reading some in the Old Testament, some in the New Testament. There's also so many connections between the New Testament and the Old Testament that I never realized before, and so making those connections and really understanding the history is fascinating and so crucial for a Christian faith. So reading your Bible every day, also finding a church, finding fellowship, finding friends in the faith, brothers and sisters who you can talk to, who can even mentor you. Making sure you're finding that Christian community is really, really big, because if you don't have people around you supporting you, feeding your soul, it's very, very easy to get lost and to forget about it and to let it slide. So church is really, really important, and being involved in the church, not just going to church every Sunday, but actually being involved, participating, taking part. Building friendships and fellowship is absolutely crucial. This is one of those things that I thought I didn't really need, but I realized that it is actually so important for the Christian faith to have brothers and sisters who will spur you on and who will pray for you and who you can have conversations with, like honest, deep, true spiritual conversations. Weekly or even bi-weekly Bible studies are a really, really great way to stay connected. And lastly, prayer. Prayer is so powerful. And I feel like often this is one that gets overlooked because it doesn't feel very significant in the moment, but never underestimate the power of prayer. The Bible calls us to pray without ceasing. That means be in constant communication with the Lord. Bring everything before Him. These are all things that have really grown my faith. How do you handle tantrums both at home and in public? The biggest thing I've learned when handling tantrums is to stay calm. A tantrum happens when your child doesn't quite know how to handle their emotions yet, and so they're trying to process their emotions and they don't know how to. And so they want to get their way, they want what they want, and the only way that they know how to process that emotion is by screaming about it because they want it really bad. And so when they're told no, that's really hard to handle. This is the beginning of learning self-control. So when I, as the parent, am not able to be self-controlled when they're trying to learn self-control, I'm not being a very good teacher at teaching self-control. Demonstrating by example is really, really huge. Also, it's not easy. But recognizing the reason behind the tantrum gives me some more compassion for my child, because I know that they're coming from a place where they're struggling. There's sin in their heart. They want what they want and they'll do whatever they can to get what they want, and they don't understand the concept of self-control or emotional regulation yet. Staying calm and trying to reason with them. Very often, if I'm at home, I find for my children, they just need some space. They need to process their emotions. I will pick them up and bring them to a space where they are able to safely process their emotions. Often that is their room, their crib, their bed. Then when they've had a chance to process it a little bit, then I'll go in and I'll comfort them and we'll talk about it, and I can reason with them then. I cannot reason with them when they are in the middle of a fit of rage. Now in public, that looks a little bit different. We take a similar approach in public, though it is a little bit more difficult because I obviously can't just go put them in a safe place. Often it comes down to distraction. Sometimes I'll just hold them until they've cried it out and they're ready to reason. Sometimes we do need to leave the store and just go sit in the van or go for a walk, like distract them, bring them to a different place where they are able to calm down and then reason with them. I used to be terrified of handling tantrums in public because I was terrified of what people would think. But I've come to realize that it is not about what other people are thinking of us in that moment. It's about my child and helping my child through that tantrum. How did your hair get so long? Like the real truth. The real truth is that I haven't cut it in probably 2 years. Before then, I was only getting a trim. I've been growing it out for quite a while. I have naturally very thick hair, and I don't know, maybe it just grows exceptionally fast. I don't really know. I do use products from Be Kind, which is a company from Quebec actually. They have really beautiful hair products especially. Their products are completely natural. They do wonders for my hair. They make my hair so soft and very manageable, like almost tangle free. So I would highly recommend those products. I do have a discount code for those actually. I don't know. The truth is I just don't cut my hair. Would you and family consider going vegan? That is not something that we will ever do. As a Christian family, we do believe that God has given us dominion over animals. He has given us animals for food. That does not give us the right to mistreat animals, but our belief is that God has given us animals for food, and that protein and meat is essential for our human bodies to function and thrive. That's what we believe, and that's what we have found to be true for ourselves. Also, my family just really loves meat. Like, I don't think they'd ever be willing to give that up. How to find balance in being home and out socializing as a stay-at-home homeschool family. I think a lot of people feel like they should be out more than they really need to be. To be honest, we don't go out all that much. We are home a lot, and yet my kids are very social. As a child, I went to both private school and public school. I was socializing almost constantly, and my homeschool kids are way more social than I ever was. Of course, we do make an effort to go see friends, to go see people. We go to church, we see family. They're meeting new people all the time, but we don't go out all the time. We spend a lot of time at home, and our family really thrives that way. Okay, a couple more questions. Postpartum prep. Obviously that is not the season that we are currently in, but I have found for myself the best way to prep for postpartum is to prepare food, because when I am postpartum, I'm really not in the kitchen much. Most of my time is just spent healing and nursing, trying to squeeze in as much sleep as I possibly can, and spending time with my kids and adjusting to a new member in the family. So I'm really not in the kitchen much. When my fourth daughter was born, I made a lot of meals from my freezer, and I was so thankful that I had done that. I had made a lot of breads and just ready to go meals, slow cooker meals, muffins, snacks. If you are able to, getting your home just cleaned and decluttered, getting food into your freezer, those are huge ways to prepare postpartum. Truthfully, I'm very, very minimal when it comes to postpartum products and things that I need. Really what I need is just a good hand pump, the Haka, lots of blankets and burp cloths, a good nursing pillow, my Bible, and good food. That's it. Do you think you'll ever move? You mentioned wanting land, homesteading, etc. It is our dream to move somewhere with more land. Land where we can garden, land where we can have chickens, land where our children can run and play. We would love to do more homesteading, to live more off the land, to have that space and that freedom. But right now, we're really enjoying exactly where we're at. We've really settled into where we are, and so while we do see ourselves moving in the future, I don't know when that might be. If there was ever the perfect property that would come up for sale, we would explore that possibility. But until that day comes, until the Lord leads us away from here, we are perfectly content where we are and continue to dream of one day moving somewhere with more space. Okay, last one. As a woman who is new to faith, how does Jesus change your parenting? Jesus changes everything. Everything. There's not a single aspect of parenting that my faith doesn't touch. It changes the way that I see my children. He changes the way that I see my husband, and as my role as a wife and mother. He changes the way that I conduct myself and the reasons why I conduct myself the way that I do. Everything that I do is centered around Jesus. Even the way that I plan for things and prepare for things, and the way that I serve my family, right down to the content that we consume, the things that we bring into our home, the movies that we watch, the books that we read, the toys that we play with, the events we take part in, the words that we speak to one another and the way that we speak those words, even the reasons why we speak the way that we do and we do the things that we do, it's all centered around Jesus. That's where I'm going to end today's video. Perfect timing because I just finished my cup of coffee. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to ask a question in a future Q&A video, make sure to go and follow me over on Instagram. It's usually where I have you ask me questions because that's the easiest place for me to gather these questions. I also share more personal day-to-day stuff over on Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, please do so. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.